Assalamu alaikum. This is Rafat Al from the Islamic University of Gaza. Last time we tried to finish Act 1, Scene 2 from Shakespeare's Hamlet, but we failed because there are so many things to speak about. We can't cover the scene in 1 hour. Uh, uh, if you paid close attention, you would notice that uh, Shakespeare is playing with the concept of tragedy and drama in a sense that keeps the audiences entertained and amused at the same time. Uh, the first scene begins dark, cold at night outside, and then everything turns upside down. We are inside, there is poetry, there is a celebration. Somebody is celebrating being crowned and getting married. This playing with audiences from bringing them inside to the warmth of the castle is really interesting. However, when we came to analyze the text, we realized that this is a highly paradoxical text speech by the king, a speech that clearly has been planned and rehearsed and rehearsed in a way to suggest that the king is hiding something. The king is trying to be all, official and pedantic with his poetry. We saw this in the many paradoxes, in not only paradoxes, I would say, in the disgusting statements made by the king, in expressions highly paradoxical, a brow of woe, and then wisest sorrow, and then he talks about what's that, mirth in funeral. Who is trying to find joy in funeral? If somebody is kind of uh, if somebody is behaving idiot, like an idiot, like silly, in a silly way in a funeral, we say this is a crazy person. That's not something to praise. And then dirge in marriage, that's the very opposite. We contrasted this with what we saw in scene one, and also we highlighted the fact that this is a king in a way of diplomacy, not a man of war, but a man of words and a man of business, of diplomacy. He sent two ambassadors to Fortinbras's uncle to calm things down and to stop the war. And instead of talking to Hamlet, or at least to the queen, or at least let the queen speak, we realize that kind of the queen is not there as a main character. She is in the shadow of the king, and probably this reflects how the society itself is anti-feminist, how the king himself is anti-feminist. He is, maybe some of you suggested that maybe he doesn't love her. He married her just to become a king. So many things we can suggest. Instead of talking to Hamlet, he's talking to Laertes, not his advisor, his advisor's son, and he was warm and close and intimate, using his name like 5 times and saying thou, thou, thou. And then when it comes to Hamlet, in an afterthought, he addresses Hamlet, my son and my cousin and my son. And the first statement ever said by Hamlet, uttered by Hamlet, is one of the most enigmatic, mysterious statements in this. Mysterious doesn't mean it's impossible to understand. It means it could mean many things, and all of them could be correct. And look at the verbal war Hamlet is waging. He starts a particular war, not a war of swords. Don't forget that until this moment, Hamlet doesn't know what really happened to his father. All he knows is that his father passed away. Okay, so a little more than kin. What is more than kin? If you check the dictionary, a little more than kin, maybe king. Is he saying I should be the king? Or but then he says and less than kind. So he's playing on kin and kind. I am more than kin. What's kin? Kind. But when we go to kin to kind, he says I am less than kind. So what is it? What are you? There's nothing in between kin and kind. And now critics did not unanimously agree whether this should be highlighted as an aside or not. If it is an aside, it means it's a threat from Hamlet to the king. Two, it means Hamlet is trying to win the heart of the audiences. Because when you take an aside, you talk to the members of the audience. You reveal your secrets to them rather than the people on the stage. And others said, no, this is Hamlet talking directly to the king, because later on he's going to say something even more threatening. So this is not an aside. He said this to the king's face. And I would agree that this is an aside because Hamlet is more a young man of words rather than of action. And then when the king said, "How is it that the clouds still hang on you?" Look at the how he delayed the word "you" at the end. Like again, he's distancing Hamlet. Hamlet comes last. He's probably afraid of Hamlet. He's hiding something, and Hamlet hits him with yet another pun. I am too much in the sun. And if you take the sun as a pun on the sun, then I am too much of a son. I am my mother's son. I am my father's son. And now here is another man telling me you are my son. ما الناس عليا كلها بتقول لي you are my son. Or I am too much in the sun. The sun representing, symbolizing the king himself. I meaning probably I suggesting that he's saying he spent too much in the sun and probably he doesn't want to do this anymore. Maybe some implied uh, some implied threat. And this is the action about the thing about the aside. And then another thing, I'll go through the difference between a soliloquy and an aside. We mentioned this briefly last time. We'll talk about it more and more. But there's one thing I wanted to stop at. Where is it? Okay, that's between Hamlet. Yep, when Hamlet and his mom started the dialogue, we again the relationship seems unique. He listens to his mom. He agrees to stay, not to go to Germany to continue his education at Wittenberg. Uh, but he seems to be very angry at his mother. So far, we don't know why. But if you are in Hamlet's shoes, you would, I don't know, you would at least expect to be crowned the king, or at least you expect your mom not to remarry. And also remember, the marriage itself was illegal at that time. So there are many things that would make Hamlet, or maybe Hamlet doesn't like his uncle because his uncle seems to be like an abhorrent man, or maybe his uncle also doesn't like him. So when she was like, Hamlet, it's common. All that live must die. She made Hamlet angry, and he replied, "Aye, madam, it's common." Perhaps some critics suggest that he's also playing on the word "common," meaning prostitute, also accusing his mom of like, "Okay, you very quickly married somebody other than my father, who's too different from my father." And when she, I would say, stupidly said, "Why seems it so particular with thee? Why are you sad? You only the only person sad. I am happy. This is a new king. I am a bride. You should be celebrating. You should be happy." She made him even more furious. "Seems, madam, nay, it is. I don't pretend." He's telling her, "أنا لا أتظاهر. أنا حزين. أنا تعيس, whatever. I know not seems. I don't know how to pretend," implying, unlike you, I don't know how to pretend to lie, etc. So we examine this relationship. It seems that his mother is the only person that could make Hamlet, energetic, reply, speak openly. When he spoke to the king, he was very brief. Look at this. When the king spoke to him, he said, one line, or like a few lines here. But when the mother spoke here, he would go on and on. He speaks freely to his mom, and he doesn't find it weird to talk to the to the woman. So this is the aside or not aside. Okay. So we already mentioned this. Now, what happens is that everybody leaves and Hamlet remains on the stage alone. And this is called a soliloquy. A soliloquy is when an actor, a character, is left alone on the stage and speaks his or her thoughts out loud. Sometimes loud, very loud, sometimes, like under his or her breath. Now, the major difference between a soliloquy and an aside, there are two major differences. An aside is usually brief, and there are other members of the cast on the stage. But a soliloquy is usually long, and there are no characters. Now, in the soliloquy, there are two or three important things we need to understand, and we'll keep talking about this as we go on. Number one, the author reveals his inner thoughts and inner conflict to the audience, to us. He talks to us. But the issue, like, is he usually doing this only to talk to the audience? No. But the act of talking to the audience brings this particular character closer to the audience, makes the audience like this particular character. We like people who tell us secrets. We trust people who reveal their secrets. That's one. Number two, there's something about the soliloquies that is called self-hearing. Self-hearing. I know some students who, when they study, they like to study out loud so they can hear themselves. Scientifically, this is good. When you hear yourself study, it's like you're studying twice. Try this sometimes. So when you hear yourself saying something, عشان هيك في التنمية البشرية بقول لك wake up early in the morning every day before you go out, stand in front of a mirror or say you are good, you are nice, you're beautiful, you're successful, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Because if you tell yourself something, you're eventually going to work hard, you're going to change your attitude and become positive in the way you want. Number three, and this is important in Shakespeare in particular, in the soliloquy, the character discovers himself, grows, matures, discovers things about himself that he or she, usually he here, he doesn't know before. So as the character, as Hamlet soliloquizes, he says things that probably he hasn't planned before. And when he says them, he discovers new ideas, new things about himself. And so do we as readers or as members of the audience. So Hamlet, for the first time, we remember almost all of you expected him to be out there in scene one. He wasn't. Even in scene two, he wasn't the main character, it was the king. But later on, in the middle of the scene, he's alone. He's wearing dark black. He's in mourning. He's sad. He's aggressive. We've seen how he treated the king, which makes us like him more. We saw how he treated his mom, which made us probably dislike him a little bit. Oh, look at even these words. Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt. كأنه بقول I wish my flesh would melt. I wish I would die. So unresolved into dew. يعني أتمنى إنه تعرفوا الفعل thaw إذا thaw the ice when the ice melts it thaws يذوب. أتمنى أن يذوب هذا اللحم ويتحول إلى قطرات ندى. Or that the everlasting had not fixed his canon against self-slaughter. Self-slaughter means suicide. I wish God hadn't prohibited suicide. I would have killed myself. Oh, God, how weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. What benefits do I have from being a prince, or being rich? Nothing. Fie on it. Ah, fie. Fie means like, alas, is an unweeded garden that grows to seed things rank and gross in nature, possess it merely that it should come to this. To this. What is this? We don't know, but he's telling us. So we see that this is an angry man. This is a man wishing to die rather than be in this situation. 2 months dead. And this is the first time we know exactly when Hamlet's father was died, passed away. 2 months, he says. And I'm not sure how you think of Hamlet's mother now that she is, remarried within 2 months after the death of her first husband. Nay, not so much, not two. And he says, no, it's not 2 months, probably less. And then he compares his uncle to his father. He compares these two people, these two kings, and he says, so excellent, so excellent a king that was to this Hyperion to a satyr. This is ancient mythology. If you look at the book, and please, can you only use the text I posted on Moodle because there is a lot of good commentary and criticism and explanation. So he's comparing a Hyperion to a satyr, two totally different mythical creatures, where one is great and amazing and magisterial, and the other is ugly and stupid. So loving to my mother that he might not beteem the winds of heaven to visit her face too roughly. Look at the beautiful image here. He's praising his father. His father was too good to his mother, too good to the extent that he wouldn't allow the winds of heaven يعني بدوش يخلي حتى رياح الجنة ريح أحسن ريح to blow to her face roughly لو تهب عليها بشكل قوي. Heaven and earth يعني كأنه بيقول فرق بين my father and King Claudius is like the difference between heaven and earth. Must I remember? There are two words we have in Hamlet that are repeated more than any play: the word remember and memory, and the word question and unquestionable. Why she would hang on him as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed on, and yet within a month. Look at this is probably telling us something about Hamlet. Is he okay? Is he in his right mind? He just said that his father died 2 months ago, and now he says within a month. Probably there's something wrong here with him. Maybe Shakespeare is not paying attention, or maybe we don't know. Maybe the marriage officially happened after 2 months, but a month after the death of her first husband, she was engaged. We don't know. Let me not think on it. بديش أفكر فيها. I love how he's thinking, but he's telling himself, he's thinking out loud. I don't want to think of this. Frailty, thy name is woman. One of the most beautiful personification here and statements, but a statement that tells us how that society treated women as inferior, as unintellectual, as weak, as poor, as sentimental. Look at here how the husband protects the woman against the winds of heaven if they blow a little bit roughly. And frailty معناها frail. The word frail معناها ضعيف, weak. Frailty, thy name is woman, أيها الضعف. اسمك امرأة. This is what he's saying. A little month, so 2 months, and now he says a month, and now a little month, in less than a month, or ere those shoes were old. Even the shoes she wore for my father's funeral didn't get dusty, didn't get old, with which she followed my poor father's body like Niobe, all tears she was crying. Why she, even she, oh God, a beast that once discourse of reason would have mourned longer, married with mine uncle. He says, a beast, an animal, would have been sad a little more than this period. Why is she marrying mine uncle? My father's brother, but no more like my father. He's never like my father. Than I to Hercules. Within a month, year means before. Before yet the salt of most unrighteous tears had left the flushing in her gold eyes. She married يعني لسه الدموع ما دبتش يعني ما نشفش. Oh, most wicked speed to post with such dexterity to incestuous cheats. This means that this marriage is illegal, and Hamlet knows this. So all we know from this, Hamlet is an angry man. There's a lot inside him. He can't reveal this to his mother, although he was, violent, a little bit violent and rude to her. He's revealing this to us. We know one thing There is a great difference between the king, Hamlet's father, and this new king. We know another thing. Hamlet is angry at his mother for remarrying quickly, for marrying his uncle. It is not, nor it can't come to good, but break my heart, for I must hold my tongue. مين الشاطرة بتحب ترجم الجملة الأخيرة. But break my heart, for I must hold my tongue. 1 mark if you can do that. Anybody?
Can I?
Yeah.
Maybe like ولكن يكسر قلبي أنني لا أستطيع أن بوح ما في داخلي.
Say again.
ولكن يكسر قلبي أنني لا أستطيع البوح عما في داخلي.
Okay, close. Somebody else? Read, go on.
maybe فلتتحمل أيها القلب أو فلتتحمل أيها القلب فلا بد أن ألزم الصمت.
أحسنت. I think you deserve the mark more than مريم. إيش يا مريم؟ راح عليك تشوفي أداة النداء هذه. Break, my heart. He's talking to his heart. He's personifying his heart. تحطم يا قلبي. تحطم يا قلبه. لأنني يجب أن ألزم الصمت. طبعا this is a paradox. لأنه أنت لك ساعة بتبرم يا هاملت. You've been talking, and talking and talking, and then you're saying that I must hold my tongue. Or maybe, yeah, he must hold his tongue. He can't talk to his mom. He can't talk to his uncle. He can't talk to his friends about this particular thing. Okay? And that's an interesting first dialogue. Hamlet is built around seven soliloquies, where each time we know something about Hamlet. So the soliloquy here tells us a lot about Hamlet. He's angry. Thank you. Nermeen said he is full of sorrow, full of anger, full of sadness. He's angry. So far, he has no suspicions about the death of his father, and he doesn't indicate he was looking forward to the throne. We don't see that he was expecting. There is no ambition here. He's just angry at his mother for remarrying, very quickly, for remarrying this particular man. Hamlet's anger springs from his dad's untimely death, his mother's marriage, which came very hastily, very quickly, and her marriage to his uncle, a man Hamlet seems to hate and abhor. Hamlet describes the marriage as incest. Incest means illegal marriage between family members. The audience must have shared, remember, Hamlet's idea that the marriage is illegal, but they were applauding hypocrites, منافقين بس شاطرين في الايش؟ في التصفيق. Hamlet's idea of time seems elusive. Time means nothing to Hamlet. 2 months, 1 month, less than month. The shoes didn't get dirty that she wore to my that the tears on her cheek didn't dry out, and she is remarrying. First, he says she remarries within 2 months after the death of his father, and then he says within a month, and then a little month, meaning probably like a little less than month. Later, he will say that the shoes she wore to his father's didn't even get old, perhaps meaning dusty. Yet later, he told Horatio, we'll see this when he meets Horatio. The first soliloquy in a way, functions as an SOS to the audiences, to the people who hear him but can't do anything to Hamlet. SOS means save our soul, save my soul, help. This is a suicidal, this is man contemplating self-slaughter. He reveals his inner thoughts to us and reaches us as audiences, reaches to us. We could feel sorry for him. We could identify with him, but what else can we do? We're not part of this play. Hamlet, alone on the stage, pours out his thoughts and concerns. This is one reason why audiences have always identified with Hamlet. Every time he is on stage alone, he talks to us. He reaches out to us. Despite his shortcomings, despite his paradoxes, despite the fact that there's something wrong with his mind. Typically, Hamlet uses references to ancient mythology, and I love this about this is I think from your book. He uses Hyperion or Satyr, Niobe, Heracles to show off his university education, and that's brilliant about Shakespeare because this is a man of university. What does he do? He gives him a language and discourse and allusions and references to education to show us that he is a university student. Hamlet is equally angry at his mother. This is where he says his problematic and sexist remark, anti feminist remark, frailty, thy name is woman. But remember, you'll find if you Google this, you will find so many people like always playing on this, changing this a little bit. Frailty, thy name is woman. You could say, for example, if one of your friends, for example, loves Nutella or something, you say Nutella, thy name is Khadra, in a way, whatever you like, to change this into. The dangerous generalization must have their consequences later on. We'll see how this develops later on. If Hamlet thinks that a woman is weak, oh my God, what's going to happen later on? Okay, so this is from Mastering English Literature. You can examine the difference between the aside, the public soliloquy, the private soliloquy. But look at the private soliloquy here below. In Hamlet, we overhear the prince communing with himself. He's talking to himself, but also we hear him. The soliloquy is not an expression of intentions, but a revelation of his mind. He's revealing his thoughts. Maybe we don't know what he's going to do next. We witness the turbulent drama of his thoughts and feelings. Is there anything wrong with Hamlet? Maybe yes. Some people would say probably, maybe. We don't know yet. So what is driving? Is Hamlet insane? Is anything driving him is insane? Yes. His father's untimely death, his mother's hasty marriage, and maybe the loss of the crown, but he didn't mention this. Maybe he was fool. He felt he was fooled. He was out there in Germany studying, and all of a sudden his father dies, and all of a sudden there is another king, and all of a sudden the queen, his mother is remarrying. Hamlet tells us that his father might not beteem the winds of heaven to visit her face too roughly. Even the winds of heaven, he just wants to protect. His father wanted to protect his wife all the time. This is along with frailty, thy name is woman. This gives us an idea about women in that society, how they were viewed, that they needed male protection, that they were too weak to defend themselves, and that they are easily tempted. And then Hamlet's ending is actually heartbreaking. But break my heart, تحطم يا قلبه يا قلبي, تكسر يا قلبي, whatever you want to translate this into. For I must hold my tongue. أني لا أستطيع أن أبوح, يجب أن أكتم لساني. It's heartbreaking, but could also be dramatic irony since he just confronted the king, confronted his mother, although not directly. He implied he started some kind of a verbal war. Okay, so Hamlet is a little bit paradoxical and contradictory. Now, what happens next is so beautiful from Shakespeare. So all of a sudden we are sad, we feel for Hamlet, and then Horatio and the other two people, I think one or two, Bernardo, only Bernardo, Horatio and Bernardo show up on the stage, and Hamlet meets them, and we see something beautiful about Hamlet, a totally different Hamlet. Hamlet who is a friend, Hamlet who comes back to life. Hail, he says, hail to your lordship. Hamlet says, I'm glad to see you well, Horatio, or do I forget myself? The same, my lord, and your poor servant. I don't know why Hamlet's saying, Inta Horatio wala ana nasi. I don't know, because 2 months ago they were together. The same, my lord, and your poor servant. Ana khadimuka al-maskin. Hamlet says, sir, my good friend, I'll change that name with you. And what make you? I'll change, and please don't describe yourself as a poor servant. You are my friend. You are my good friend. What make you from Wittenberg, Horatio? بس شوفوا هذه الحاجة اللطيفة. طبعا عفوا هان الموجودين Horatio, Marcellus and Bernardo. I love this about Hamlet. He's a good friend. I'm not sure about you. I like a friend who pays attention to his other friends. So Hamlet, three people come to visit him. He knows one of them, Horatio. Horatio is his friend. He doesn't know the other two people, Bernardo and Marcellus. وهو بيسلم نسي يسلم على الناس الباقيين. It seems he is, humble, متواضع. It seems that he likes to, he's a man of people. فقبل ما هوريشيو يرد عليه لما قال له what make you from Wittenberg هوريشيو، انتبه لمارسيلس، قال له مارسيلس يعني are you مارسيلس؟ مارسيلس بيقول له my good lord. And then he talks to Bernardo. I'm very glad to see you. Good evening, sir, to Bernardo. And what in faith make you, ورجع لهوريشيو to say what brings you from Wittenberg, from the university. It shows that this is not an arrogant prince. He's humble. He likes people. حتى even if they are people he doesn't know, like Bernardo, he says, what about you? Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. And he asks Horatio again, what brings you? And Horatio says, a truant disposition, good my lord. Truant تعرفوا الولد اللي بنط عن حيطة المدرسة وبشرد وبيحضرش المحاضرات، هذا بنسميه truant. وقال والله شردت من الجامعة يعني, something like this. Very playful answer. And I'll go back to Horatio. And then thrift Horatio. Then he asks him, and Horatio says, I came here to attend the funeral of your father. The funeral of your father. And for the first time, we see Hamlet making jokes. He tells him, are you here for my father's funeral or my mother's wedding? And then Horatio says, maybe both, because they came very quickly after each other. And Hamlet says another statement to indicate how fast the marriage was. He says, thrift Horatio. The funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. يعني الأكل اللي عملوه في العزاء قدموه في الفرح. And that's a very interesting hyperbole or exaggeration. The funeral baked meats، لا بس يعني زي الصحيح، زي كأنه واقعي شوية، بقول له صحيح يعني هم مدوا على الأكل بتاع الفرح، لكن it was coldly furnished. Did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. What would I had met my dearest for in heaven, or ever I had seen that day, Horatio. هنا في إذا منتبهين grammar، تعرفوا لما تحذفوا if في القاعدة الثانية والثالثة، when you delete if you create you invert the subject and a verb. أصل الجملة I wish I would had، يعني if I had met something like this. كأنه بقول لو يعني تمنيت أن ألقى ألد أعدائي في الجنة ولا أشوفها اليوم يا هوريشيو. Beautiful thing. This is like the language of today. My father, methinks I see my father. methinks هتشوفها كتير في شكسبير. methinks و me thought. It means it seems، يبدو. أبي. It seems, I think I see my dad. And Horatio says, where, my lord? Remember, Horatio saw a ghost that looks like Hamlet's father, old Hamlet. Where, my lord? And Hamlet uses this beautiful expression, in my mind's eye, Horatio. في عين عقلي يا هوريشيو. أراه في عقلي، أراه في قلبي، في خيالي, etc. Before we continue this and give you the time to comment, I'll go through this brief commentary about Hamlet and Horatio, and probably a little bit of the ghost. So this interaction between Hamlet and Horatio and the two other people shows that Hamlet is a good friend. He likes his friends. He's very friendly. He's not arrogant. He's not, full of himself because he's a prince, because he's rich. Even the person he doesn't know, he talks to, he says, how are you? So Hamlet is thoughtful. He's tactful. Also, unlike the Hamlet who was rash and harsh and tough on the king and on the queen. And we see Hamlet as playful, Hamlet cracking jokes, making fun of the situation. Something we'll talk about also called dark humor. If somebody is dying, you don't make jokes. But this is dark humor, because Hamlet is cracking jokes about the hasty marriage of his mother when Horatio said he came to attend the old Hamlet's funeral. Horatio and Marcellus are quizzed by Hamlet, and this is interesting. This is beautiful. Hamlet doesn't very quickly believe. Remember, he is a university student. He's a man of science and knowledge and logic. Are you sure? How did he look? What did he do? Etc. Hamlet decides to go to check on the castle for himself. And we'll see later on, he ends the whole scene by saying, I doubt some foul play. I'm not sure. Oh my God, what's going on? There must be something wrong about this. So we go back to this dialogue. Hamlet saying, my father, methinks I see my father. Where, my lord? In my mind's eye, Horatio. I saw him once. He was a goodly king. He was a man. Take him for all in all. I shall not look upon his like again. لن أرى مثله مثيلا له أبدا. And then Horatio says, my lord, I think I saw him yesterday. So who? My lord, the king, your father. The king, my father. فبقول له, season your admiration for a while. Calm down with an attent ear. Give me your ear. Lend me your ear. Upon the witness of these gentlemen, look, he's bringing more people to be believable. This marvel, and Hamlet. He tells Hamlet what he saw on that in the castle, on the battlement. Is it the battlement? So I'll come to this conclusion and see what you have to say in a bit. All in all, these are general comments here. So Hamlet is a tragedy. Conventionally, tragedies are not supposed to be mixed with comedy. But Shakespeare was experimenting. He was pushing. He was changing. He was always including sub plots and also comic elements and comic relief. In Hamlet, we have a lot of cynicism, a lot of puns, a lot of, in a way, I wouldn't say a lot, but some funny situations that can be described as dark humor, as I'm going to explain in a bit. But playing on words and punning can create humorous situations where our everyday perception of language is tampered with in a way that makes us laugh and makes us wonder and makes us think, what does he mean? Why is he using this word? وهي دليل انه احنا we are stopping at one sentence by Hamlet and examining it in detail. Hamlet's puns were signs, this should be signs of disrespect to the king and to the queen, both symbols of authority. In a way, Hamlet is attacking the symbols of monarchy, the king and the queen, by making fun of them, by playing with words to confuse them and make us laugh at these people who are too stupid probably to understand. Perhaps this is why Samuel Johnson, now many people, many critics hated puns, by the way. Samuel Johnson said Shakespeare used too many puns, and he called them quibbles because Shakespeare, according to him, sacrifices reason, propriety, and truth. In brief, puns are also used by Hamlet as a pun to attack the symbols of authority. Puns, this man, John Pollock, says something really interesting about the puns. This is one whole quote. I'll fix this when I post the PowerPoint today. Puns are threatening because puns reveal the arbitrariness of meaning and the layers of nuance that can be packed onto one single word. In other words, the word sun, which means two things, but the different spelling could be confusing to somebody who doesn't know the context. Why are the clouds hanging on you? I am too much in the sun. What does he mean? Does he mean son, like because I'm telling him you are my son, or son because I am the king and he is threatening me? So even the king will be threatened. And Hamlet, this is the joke from Hamlet. Hamlet's humor and jokes are dark comedy. This is the dialogue. Horatio says, my lord, I came to see your father's funeral. Hamlet, I pray thee do not mock me, fellow student. ما تتمسخرش على تضحكش عليا يا زمل يا بنصفي fellow student. I think it was to see my mother's wedding. You came to attend my mother's wedding rather than my father's funeral. And Horatio says, indeed, my lord, it followed hard upon. Wallah sahih. They came after each other very quickly. Thrift, thrift, Horatio. The funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. So the jokes, they might be called dark humor, reveal three things here. Number one, they bring relief and tension. Remember, we just felt sad and sorry for Hamlet, but now we laugh a little bit. Oh, maybe there's a sign of life. So they create relief amidst the tension, the unease, the apprehension, the fear, the melancholy. They help us reach out to the masses, help Hamlet reach out to the masses rather than to the VIPs in the audience, because he's mocking and making fun of the king and the queen. So people generally don't like people in authority. غالبا تلاقي الواحد بحبش الوزير ونائب الوزير، بنحسهم انهم they are corrupt and they are, they're stealing our money. And the jokes also disturb the symbols of authority by making fun of them. In the play, the audience, the mainstream canon that didn't like mixing tragedy with comedy. Many critics, like I just mentioned Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson hated that Shakespeare used a lot of puns because they are confusing. They hide the truth. They don't reveal the truth. And then finally, when everybody exits, Hamlet alone on the stage, and like he's saying farewell, wada'an, farewell, and exeunt Horatio, Marcellus, and Bernardo. And Hamlet says again to the audience, my father's spirit in arms, all is not well. That's not good. If my father's spirit is coming back and in arms يعني مش بيده, with God, with a weapon, with a sword, all is not well. I doubt some foul play. يعني في غش في الموضوع. Would the night were come, till then sit still my soul. إلى حينها اهدئي يا روحي. Calm down my soul. Foul deeds will rise, though all the earth overwhelm them to men's eyes. There will always be foul deeds. And it's very interesting how Hamlet didn't think of anything good to say when he was told that your father's spirit is back. Look at this, not well, foul play, and then foul deeds. What else? There are more negative words than positive words. Yeah. Before I show you the questions that you need to think of, please say something if you want to say something, if you have something to say. If you want to comment, to ask a question, go on, Wala.
Yes, I want to comment. Like, I'm not really sure, but I think that
Can you speak a little bit lower, Wala, so nobody hears you?
why? Okay, can you hear me now?
A little bit louder, please.
I think there's something wrong with. Okay, can you hear
Go.
me now?
Yeah, go on, better maybe.
Okay, so I'm saying I think that Shakespeare is also playing with the names. Like, I mean, the names of the characters. For example, the most clear one is, for example, Gertrude, where root is there in the name. So, like, that's what maybe that's what we'll think of her, because, like, she married Hamlet's uncle, and like directly after the death of her husband. Even Hamlet, like all the names, like are chosen like carefully and precisely. Like Hamlet, for example, the there is like which expresses hesitation, and sometimes Hamlet is a person who's hesitant sometimes.
Okay.
This-
I haven't thought of this. Perhaps if you have ever tried to write stories, you will realize that people choose the names carefully. But I don't think all the names were chosen for a reason. Maybe there is a reason, maybe there isn't a reason. Mariam.
Okay, I want to say something about the bun and the sun. When he said, I'm too much to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he wants to say that I am a good son to my father. So he was so related to his father. For that reason, he's now sad to him because he was a good son. He is a good son.
So he's saying, I am my father. Me being my father's son is enough. I don't need another one to call me son.
Yeah. This is what you said in the lecture. I mean, he wanted to say like he's too related to his father. And he is a good son to his father. For that reason, he is sad now for him.
Yeah,
For his
probably, yeah. So yeah, but we'll see later on how this relationship between old Hamlet and young Hamlet develops. What if they meet, what kind of relationship did they have? We'll see later on. Reem, finally.
Yeah, I want to say something about Claudius. If I were Claudius, I would do two things. I wouldn't remarry. I wouldn't marry Gertrude too quickly, because if we think of it, what makes Hamlet so mad and angry wasn't only his father's death, but his mother's remarriage. And because she doesn't get married to any man but to his father's brother, and this makes Hamlet too sad. The second thing I would do is that I would resend Hamlet to Wittenberg to complete his university, and by doing so, I would Hamlet would be so far away from me, and I wouldn't have a competitor about the throne. And after that, maybe I would remarry. I would
Okay.
marry the queen.
I expected you, Reem, to say I would have killed Hamlet, and then I was about to tell you maybe
No,
Claudius
no,
is not as evil as you are. But yeah, that is interesting. Why don't you send Hamlet away? That's a bit confusing. But if he sends Hamlet away, we will not have a play, Reem. So that's why he has to
yes,
stay.
yeah.
So
Since
critics say that he wants Hamlet in Denmark so he can watch him. Maybe if he travels, he's going to join the army, Fortinbras, and come and occupy Denmark. But basically, we have to have Hamlet here in Denmark because if we don't have Hamlet, we don't have the play.
yeah, I say logically,
Oh, yeah.
he would do that.
In real life, probably we could act in a different way. Type. These are brief questions to think. Listen, the questions I post are optional. It's good if you participate. They tell you more about the play. If I choose questions in the midterm or the final exams to write a paragraph or an essay, they will be from these or like these. But you don't have to do them if you don't have to do them, if you don't like doing them. So in Hamlet, we are constantly made to forget that actors are acting, adding more confusion, realism, and apprehension. What if it were true? Seems a man might play. In a sense, the question means like Shakespeare does many things in the play to make the play appear to be real, not only realistic, but real, as if you're listening and watching people in real life, doing these parts. What functions do jokes have in Hamlet? What functions do puns have in Hamlet? And what is the significance of the soliloquies? We'll later on we'll talk more and more as we go on about soliloquies. I don't want you to answer the questions now. If you have time, when you can post the answers to one of them or the one you like on Facebook. Finally, Farah.
Well, I just want to say that if I was Hamlet, I won't take revenge as he did. For example, I will take it slowly, and after actually he discovered that his uncle killed his father by poisoning, I will raise my power between aristocrat, and I will actually like make them love me, and then will I become the king or the queen. When I become the king, I will kill him in the same way he killed my father, like by poisoning him.
But so far, okay, but so far we don't no nobody knows what happened. We don't know what happened, how his whether his father died naturally or whether he was assassinated. We don't know. So let's wait and see. بعدين about taking things slowly ما توصيش حريص. Hamlet is probably the slowest person on earth. He's the most hesitant of all. Okay, thanks for these comments. You can always comment and ask.
Yes,
And
but at the end it was like,
okay, so thank you. We'll stop here and we continue if you have issues on online. And تصبحوا على خير ويعطيكم العافية.